Getting near the end of our trip, we dove the Aikuru Maru, which was a fairly deep wreck. That we dove this wreck after the San Francisco. The Aikuru Maru sits at about 200 to 225 feet. This is a great photo of the Aikuru Maru in its heyday. Again, it was a Maru, so it was a cargo ship, but it was a 8-bay cargo ship. So it was a very, very large ship. And as you can see here, back in World War II, this is how they camouflaged ships. So the Aikuru Maru was specifically built for the Japanese military. It was 500 feet long, and it was a cargo ship. Also was sort of like a troop transporter. So the Aikuru Maru was obviously bombed in the front section of the ship, where it had multiple explosive devices. So when the American airplanes that dropped the bombs on the Aikuru, when those bombs hit, the entire front half of the ship exploded, sinking the ship. And it does sit at around 205 to 225 feet. The back half of the boat, sand is starting to take over the ship. So if I remember correctly, you can't see the screws on this ship, but again, it's a really, really deep dive. So as we made our descent onto the ship, the float or the buoy at the surface was attached to the very front part of the ship where it blew up. When we were doing our briefing before our descent, we were told that the bow of the ship was just ahead of the blown out section of the ship. So here we are making our way towards the bow of the ship. So this is the back side of the bow. You can see the bow is kind of leaning on its port side with the anchor chain sprawled out to the front. And as we moved to the very front of the bow, there was this jellyfish that was getting devoured by these fish. So I thought it was a really cool spectacle. So I backed up away from the bow so I can get the full bow into the frame. And here you can see, I did say that it was leaning on its port side. It's actually leaning on its starboard side. Once we hung out for a few minutes at the bow, we decided to make our way back towards the stern, to the deeper part of the ship. There was a lot of cool things to see at the surface of the ship. There was a lot of rubble and a lot of debris. Because it was a deeper wreck, there's not a lot of coral on this wreck, so there's definitely a lot more rust and deeper types of coral that you would see on a deeper wreck. Here I am, decided to take a little selfie of myself and my Revo. We were told that there's a tar roller or like an asphalt roller just off of the ship, and we came upon this basket. I'm sure some diver found a basket in these bottles and put it next to the ship. I'm not 100% sure where we made our penetration. I think there was a torpedo hole or some kind of hole in the side of the ship, and we started to make our way into the wreck itself. Here you can see debris and then an entrance into the ship. We did not do a whole lot of penetrating in this ship, and so there are a lot of debris on the top of the wreck itself, and so we just kind of swam around. We finally made it to the stern of the ship, and here you can see the rudder and the screw, for the most part, buried into the sand. So you just get to see one blade of the prop hanging out. We continued to make our way around the rudder, and we're at about 220, 225 feet of water here. And here you can see the other prop that is fully exposed, not necessarily buried into the sand like the other prop. Now this is the prop shaft that was attached to the prop, and it ran, I would say, it ran at least a quarter to almost halfway down the ship. So it's a very, very long shaft attached to the prop. Again, like I said, we didn't do a whole lot of penetrating on this boat, but there were a number of swim throughs, and so this just so happens to be one of the swim throughs that we did. I believe this is one of the main guns on the ship. Not a great shot, but you can see there's the barrel, and this is sort of like the gun structure. Not 100% sure what this is, other than another room on top of the ship. I don't know if it was like a little shop or whatnot, but it wasn't a very impressive structure, so I'm not 100% sure what this is. Maybe it's a gun tower or a turret that has a gun on top of it. Again, not 100% sure what it is. Aside, there is a gun on top of it, so maybe that's where they housed the ammunition and the gun was on top. Who knows?
This is the torpedo. Torpedo launcher.
So this was the torpedo launcher, and so that was the wheel to raise the elevation of the torpedo tube. So here you can see the actual torpedo tubes itself on its superstructure, and this is the opening of where the torpedo tubes launch out the torpedo. So it's, you can see little holes right on the right side. So there's like 1, 2, 3 holes for the torpedo tubes. So we did spend a lot of time off the side of the ship because we were told that there's a steamroller of whatnot. So we went around looking. So here's a little teapot, kettle, and lots of debris off of these ships. And so that was kind of fun to kind of check out all the debris off the side of the ship. And the last part of the dive, this pufferfish caught my eye. He was just kind of chilling out. And then my GoPro died.